Hello and welcome again to this new chapter. Today's chapter is about Linux system components, understanding the kernel, shell, and GUI, or Graphical User Interface. Okay, introduction. This presentation explores the core components of Linux system, the kernel, shell, and GUI. Each component plays a vital role in system operating and user interaction, contributing to the overall efficiency of Linux environment. The first one is the kernel. What is the kernel and what is the composition of the kernel? Definition and purpose. The kernel is the core component of the Linux operating system responsible for managing system resources, including CPU, memory, and device input and output. It acts as a bridge between applications and the hardware, facilitating efficient program execution and resource allocation. Types of kernels. Linux supports different types of kernels, including monolithic kernel, which incorporate full device drivers into one large block of code, and micro kernels, which run minimal functions with additional services running in user space. Hybrid kernels, a combination of both, are also common in modern operating systems. To summarize, Linux supports many types of kernels, like monolithic, microkernels, hybrid, and so on and so forth. We don't need to know each of them by heart, but we need to know that there is different types of kernels. So, kernels versus user space. The kernel operates in a protected area known as kernel space, which has direct access to hardware, while user space is where users run applications with restricted access to system resources. This separation enhances system security and stability, allowing multiple user processes to execute without interference. I will summarize this. In fact, there is a protection between the user space and the kernel, which separate them. One is the kernel, which is very protected, and the user space with a restricted area to resources. For example, when I am root or an administration or an administrator to the Linux operating system, I have all the privilege and all the data I can handle. I can delete the user, I can run multiple tasks, and so on and so forth. For example, in another hand, when I am not a root, when I am a normal user or everybody user or whatever privilege I had, I cannot manipulate some restricted area of the operating system. This is, in fact, what is the kernel versus user space. Okay. Shell. What is the shell, in fact? What is a shell? The shell is a command line interface that allows users to interact with the operating system by entering commands, like CMD in Windows, like the command line interface in Macintosh, and so on and so forth. It interprets and executes user commands, providing output, and even enables scripting for automation tasks, making it essential for system administration and development. To summarize, with the shell, we can put commands. We can use commands to manipulate some data and some functions and some automation of tasks and so on and so forth. Types of shells. There is several types of shells in Linux, including bourne shell or sh, bourne again shell or bash, which is the widely used shell, and C shell, CS hash, and Z shell, ZS hash. Each shell has its syntax and features, catering the two different preferences and use cases from scripting to interactive use. Each of them has a unique features and a unique uses. but we will use bash shell for the most case of our course. Shell scripting basics. In fact, to use the shell, we have to know how to script, how to write code in the shell. Shell scripting involves writing a sequence of commands to automate tasks in Linux distribution. Scripts can contain control, structure, loops, conditional, function, and variables to create powerful tools for system management and software installation, significantly enhancing productivity. For example, we can write a script language, a script paper, or a script command to interact with the kernel or the operating system. GUI, or Graphical User Interface. Definition and importance. The Graphical User Interface, pronounced GUI, is a visual way for users to interact with operating system using graphical elements like windows, icons, and menus. It simplifies tasks, making them accessible even to non-technical users. Like Windows, for example, Windows 11 or Windows 10 use the GUI or the Graphical User Interface to interact with applications, with folders, and so on and so forth. In fact, the GUI are crucial for enhancing user experience and productivity by providing intuitive controls and visual feedback. Popular Linux GUI. There are several popular GUI cater to different preferences in the Linux environment, including GNOME, which is widely used, and KDE Plasma and XFCE and LXDE. Each offers unique features. GNOME emphasizes simplicity and usability. KDE Plasma is known for its customization capability. XFCE is lightweight and efficient, while LXDE focuses on minimum resource usage. Choosing the right GUI can enhance the overall Linux experience depending on user needs. Difference between GUI and command line interface with or bash or shell or whatever. The main difference between GUI, graphical user interface, and the CLI or command line interface lies in their interaction methods. In fact, GUI allows users to perform tasks using graphical elements like Windows 11, for example, making them user-friendly, while CLI require users to input text commands, offering greater control and flexibility. For example, in cybersecurity field, we will use almost in major case the CLI because it can interact with data log and so on and so forth. Knowing when to use each can optimize workflows and task efficiency in Linux systems. Interaction. What is interaction, in fact? How kernel, shell, and GUI work together. The kernel manages system resource, serving as a bridge between the hardware and the operating system, which translate the binary numbers like 1 and 0 to instruction. The shell acts as an intermediary for users to communicate with the kernel via command execution, while the GUI presents the shell's functionality through visual representation, enabling users to execute commands and interact with application easily, demonstrating a seamless flow of interaction among these components. User interaction with shell and GUI. Users can choose to interact with their Linux system via the shell or GUI. The shell allows advanced users to execute commands quickly and automate tasks through scripts. In contrast, the GUI provides an intuitive environment for general users, supporting drag and drop action and visual navigation. For example, Windows 11 has this functionality. For example, we can drag and drop our folder or our image or whatever, our application or whatever it is, and we can use the GUI to interact with Windows 11. And this is the same case as the Linux GUI. Understanding both methods equips users to work efficiently in different and diverse scenarios. Performance consideration. Using a GUI may consume more system resources compared to CLI environments, which can affect performance, especially in lower spec hardware. Resource allocation and system responsiveness should be monitored when using GUI heavy distribution. for advanced tasks and server management. The command line may be preferable due to its lightweight nature, allowing for faster operating and more control over system resources. Getting started now. Installing a Linux distribution, we will discuss this in the next chapter. For example, we will install the Ubuntu distribution, but it is good to read this. To get started with Linux, users must choose and install a Linux distribution. Popular options include Ubuntu, Fedora, or Debian. The installation process typically involves creating a bootable USB drive for the case of hard drive installation or dual boot installation, configuring installation settings and partitioning this if necessary. Understand the system requirement and choosing a suitable distribution based on user skills and is crucial for a successful onboarding experience. Explore now the GUI environment. After installing, exploring the GUI environment is essential for new users. Familiarity with the desktop layout, taskbar, application launcher, and settings will enhance usability. Many distributions offer integrated help, documentation, and tutorials to assist users in navigating and utilizing various tools effectively within the GUI environment, promoting a smooth learning curve. Now we will see some of the commands or the CLI tools. Learning to use command line tools is vital for maximizing the functionality of Linux system. By the way, we will see in this in the next chapters how to use multiple commands of Linux in order to master the Linux distribution. Essential commands include navigation or change directory or cd, file operation, copy, move, remove, and package management like apt or yum. Apt for Ubuntu, for example, and yum for Debian. Practicing these commands enhance users' efficiency and performing tasks and managing system settings beyond what the GUI offers, making it an valuable skill for any Linux user. To conclude, understanding the interplay between the kernel shell and GUI forms the foundation of effective Linux usage. Each component serves a critical role in system performance and user experience, whether utilizing a GUI or graphical user interface for ease of use or mastering the shell for advanced control. Knowledge of these elements is essential for harnessing the full potential of Linux system. So now we will see later on or in the next chapter how to install Ubuntu on a VMware or virtual machine, or you have the choice to install it on VirtualBox also. By the way, we will not see how to install it in a hard drive because it is not onto the scope of this course. So we will see you later on, and thank you for watching.